Hello, everyone. James Daly here from TruthBeKnown. Many of you in the Radiant Church community received a letter last Friday via email that attempts to address our situation. We are posting this letter for your review. After reading this letter, I was disappointed to find out that it fails to address any of our difficult questions related to Radiant's lack of financial transparency or their ungodly behavior. Instead, it seems to deflect from the serious concerns that we at TruthBeKnown have raised. This letter is almost in its entirety a circular reasoning fallacy, which is a defense argument that assumes the very thing it is trying to prove is true. Instead of offering evidence like we have, it simply repeats the conclusion. For example, we take transparency seriously. We are the utmost of integrity. We are accredited by the ECFA. And in doing so, it attempts to render the facts of the argument incoherent. In contrast, we at TruthBeKnown have and will continue to be providing you a vast amount of circumstantial evidence, for example, that which appears to be serious, as well as direct evidence, facts, documents, video footage, etc. The easiest response from Radiant would have been to simply provide you with all the answers to full financial transparency and the complete bylaws. But they write you this letter to do nothing more than to tell you why you should believe them, rather than providing you with information to strengthen your trust in them. I believe the congregation deserves better. This letter starts out by saying, our aim is to always surpass what is legally required of churches. I'm not even sure what that means, because as a church, what they are called is an ecclesiastical organization. Radiant is exempt from many state and federal laws relating to financial disclosures. That said, they are required to follow their own bylaws and what their bylaws say about financial disclosures. Since Radiant has refused to provide a copy of these bylaws to us, despite dozens of requests from TruthBeKnown and its membership, we have in no way been able to confirm whether or not they are complying with their own bylaws. All we know is that they have told us, which is that there are two types of members, and that only voting members can see the detailed financial information. But yet they don't tell us exactly who these individuals are. It appears that Radiant's position is that only elders are entitled to full financial transparency. And then if that's the case, how are they surpassing what is legally required when it took us 8 months of applying pressure to the ECFA to even get Radiant to release its basic financials? As we will share in a future video, Radiant was out of compliance with the ECFA accreditation standards for years. But beyond doing what is legally required, what about doing what's morally required? What's more important than providing a moral response to its church and its membership? Radiant's failure to provide full financial transparency and failure to respond to the questions from the independent third-party accounting firm speaks for itself. In my view, I don't think Radiant's leadership is surpassing anything at the moment. Next, their letter then states, and set standards for others to follow. How is failing to be in compliance with the ECFA standards, ignoring the Matthew 18 process that we have biblically confronted them with, a process they claim to embrace as a church, failing to answer some very critical questions raised from the third-party accounting review, failing to provide full financial transparency, failing to provide the bylaws, or stating that only certain members can see the financials. And then when someone presses in for such information, they kick them out of the church with a letter from hell without any biblical basis. So I ask you, how is any of that setting a standards for others that they should follow? They then talk about being a member of good standing with the ECFA and being in full compliance with the stringent standards of responsible stewardship. Rather than answer the questions raised by the accounting firm's questionnaire, they simply point to the ECFA accreditation. In our opinion, Radiant's leadership is using the ECFA seal of accreditation as a shield to deflect from the real issue here, which is answering the simple questions raised by the accounting firm. We can see no good reason for this, and we're going to shed light on this apparent seal of approval from the ECFA in a future video. They then point to providing further accountability and ensured transparency in addition to the due diligence and governance provided by a layer of elders and outside overseers. Tom Lane, an overseer who gave me a prophetic word multiple times at Radiant Church, in one of these words, he said to me that I belonged at Radiant Church and that I had friends at Radiant Church and that I was going to pass a test of some sort. Upon being kicked out, he then refuses to even take my phone call. And when I had serious concerns about the ministry he oversees, he comes out and calls me a factious man. Now, Michael Brown, another overseer, on his show just the other day, his podcast, he stated that I was confronted and left the church. But actually, I confronted the church and was kicked out. Is he not aware of the 9 other witnesses that also had issues with the church that jointly signed that letter with me? He doesn't even have his facts straight. I believe this means one of 3 things. They have not reviewed the information, or someone has lied to all of them about what has actually occurred and they've bought into it. Or number 3, they're simply all in on this, defending the church no matter what. As an overseer, they are supposed to look into matters that are brought to their attention to ensure there is no falter of the church leadership. But the unfortunate experience that we have had with TruthBeKnown is that the church leadership has either ignored these serious matters, tried to shut us down, or brought false personal attacks against us. Radiant then addresses recent allegations. We simply shared with you the facts and circumstances as we know them. And we made not any allegation except for one, that Radiant Church is not exhibiting full financial transparency, which is undeniably true. They state the allegations were made by some outside our church community. Well, we weren't outside their church community until they threw us out. Unfortunately, in addressing the recent allegations, Radiant's leadership again fails to address the substance of the allegations, specifically the questions raised by the independent accounting firm about Radiant's financial reports. They then close out the letter stating you're welcome to contact them and that they would be happy to schedule a conversation or an in-person meeting. I would hope that every one of you would want to take them up on this offer and request the answers to the accounting firm's questions provided to you, the complete bylaws of your church, along with any edits since 2019, and then full financial transparency of whom you are entrusting with your money, including answering the questions raised by the independent accounting firm. The board of elders might try to meet with people individually with 2 or 3 board members, which can seem like an interrogation. I would avoid this setup and would highly recommend you request what most churches do, and that is to have a town hall corporate board meeting where it is open to the entire church body to review all of the financials and the complete bylaws. The meeting would require mandatory attendance by all boards of elders, overseers, by being present at the front of the church to receive questions from the church body. Not predetermined questions by predetermined people, but open discussion. If an overseer who is out of Texas can't make the town hall meeting and be available, then perhaps he's too busy to be serving this ministry from several states away. God's business is important business. Your tithe and where it's going is important business. So why is it not warranted to host such a meeting out of respect to you, the congregation? I think many of us trust too quickly, especially to those in ministry. I am certainly guilty of wanting to give my trust to someone who says they're in ministry. But I've now come to learn that people must earn my trust. I want to remind you of Judas, who was a disciple who walked shoulder to shoulder with Jesus on a daily basis. He was the only disciple to fall, and he was the only disciple who had access to the purse. Is there any pastor on this earth with more experience or credentials than this guy, being hand-selected by Jesus? As a believer in Jesus Christ, I would hope that Christians would not be a gullible bunch. If someone says to us from a position of authority, "Thus saith the Lord," we need to vet the verse and how it ties into the full counsel of God. Get back to the Word to test what we are being told from the pulpit so we can walk in peace, without fear, wearing the armor of God, able to swing the sword of the Spirit when confronted with evil. Radiant's behavior took us to the doorstep of many individuals and organizations that we will be covering in future videos. Radiant's letter not only leads us to the doorstep of the ECFA, but ushers us in, sets us down, and sets the table. We are going to shift gears and go into how the ECFA has treated Radiant in this next video, episode 2. This video will be tailored to be an intelligence countermeasure to the circular reasoning fallacy in this letter by providing a stack of evidence and facts. We strongly believe that you are going to come to a much different conclusion about the value and significance of this ECFA seal. A conclusion that's going to question what accreditation actually is and what is the actual reality in this entire situation. I want to close out this discussion with reminding us all of the fact that this is a man-made crisis, solely created and exacerbated by Radiant's leadership. Does anyone else understand why this is so controversial to them? All Radiant has to do is answer the questions about the financials that were raised by the accounting firm to provide full financial transparency, as well as a copy of their complete bylaws, along with any modifications since 2019. A lot of the church's money has been spent on attorneys in an attempt to get rid of us. They seem to be willing to spend whatever amount of money they need to in order to keep us all from seeing their detailed financials. They seem all too willing to write off my giving and the giving of 4 other couples, as well as others, through the years, which calculates up to a lot of money. Is there something they don't want us to see? They sure seem to be willing to spend and accept the cost of a lot of tithing over many concerned families, which adds up to a lot of money over a lot of decades, just so they don't have to share their detailed financials. In our review, this does not add up to be good stewardship of God's funds. Please join us in requesting that they do the right thing with the Lord's money, your tithe, and provide full financial transparency. This would include answering the questions of the third-party accounting review, and should also include disclosing Pastor Lee and Jane's wages. Matter of fact, all pastors' wages, along with their full compensation packages, including their vehicle allowances, nanny expense, credit card expenditures, and a full account of where every dime is being spent. The members of Radiant Church are the source of these funds, and we humbly submit that all members of Radiant have a right to know where all of that money is being spent. We will see all of you very soon in episode 2, Behind the Shield of the ECFA. God bless.